Today, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, still morning. Good morning. My name is Ojabo. Great to have each and every one of you today. I think we'll be having a couple of people join us eventually. Yes, but thanks for being here on time. And then we're going to start immediately. Okay, so I work with the Office of Research, like that's where my office is, but I lead the AI campus. It's a new initiative here in Rutgers University Camden. Literally, we just had our launch event last February on the 18th, right? And I'm seeing a couple of faces, people who have probably exchanged emails with, someone who's one of the cohort members. And yeah, so for our conversation today, I'm going to be talking about one pillar of what the AI campus stands for. Generally, with the AI campus, what we're trying to do is be able to drive research, innovation, and productivity here in Rutgers Camden, as well as also support other colleges and businesses within the South Jersey region. Literally 2 days ago here in this room, we had about 12, 13 business owners from the chambers of commerce of South New Jersey, and where we had like conversations around how we could probably support their business, how we could create pathways and opportunities for students, right? That could eventually lead to some form of innovation and all that. So, but first, thank you for being here today. The topic before us says AI, what everyone needs to know. Let me lay it out here. I am not an AI zoomer, like DOOMER, and I am not a boomer. Oh, literally, I'm not a boomer. You get that? Okay, amazing. And so, one of the things we want to do with the AI conversations is create opportunities for conversations, like discussions, also have workshops, and in some cases, use case presentations. So this is literally the first conversation we're having. So like you're literally the people who get the first part of what the AI conversations is about. So we have the AI conversations, and then we have what's also called the AI campus, the AI cohorts. So with that, we have it's structured as an interdisciplinary cohort-based learning structure where participants get to learn together and work together on a project. And Sangita is one of the team members. I think your team is working on a business project. Yes, we have another team working on a biomed project, and then I am I'm the AI coach for a team that's working on a social project, So these are the two parts of the AI campus as it relates to us as staff, faculty, and students. Now, thank you. So now let's go into what we're here for today. I will not be the only one talking. You will also be talking. So I'll sometimes prompt you. Don't worry, don't be scared. I'll prompt you to maybe make a contribution, to raise your hand or something like that, to just make sure that the conversation flows. All of this, okay, this is going to last for give or take about 25 to 30 minutes, and then there'll be room for like more discussions for over a 10, 15, 20-minute period. So let's go on this ride together. So this is where I start, just to know who is in the room today. When you hear artificial intelligence, what comes to mind? I'll take like 3 hands. What comes to mind? There is no right, wrong answer. Yes. Okay, I can see 1, 2, 3. So the first hand I saw go up with this was this hand, I think.
Like Copilot and Gemini, like how it helps everyday users in finding information, drafting notes or images.
Okay, thank you. Did I say which? I'm not sure which hand I saw go first. Yes,
A database of information.
a database of information. Amazing. And you?
I think of smart machines,
You think of smart machines. So
machines that try to think.
machines that try to think, co-pilots and Gemini drafting, use case and all of those things. I'm coming, Habiba. And then you said
Oh, a database.
a database of information. Habiba,
Replication and mimicking of human intelligence to try to digitize and teach systems and computers to do what we do.
okay, that's a lot. Let's take it together. Yeah. Start again. Replicating
Human intelligence.
human intelligence
Trying to train systems.
and trying to train systems and machines that do things similar to what humans are doing. Thank you. So that's what you think of when you hear artificial intelligence, right? Okay, great. This is a good starting point. It's a good starting point. So when we have conversations like this, or from interactions, and also from research, right? When we hear or think of artificial intelligence, it's these things that you've said and some more, right? So I said here, when people hear artificial intelligence, they fall into like different boxes. There are people who are like skeptical about artificial intelligence. There are people who just want to adopt. What's the newest thing? I just want to know how to use that. I just want to use it. There are people who are curious, like what really is this thing? There are people who are on the side of development, so they're working on something new. They're trying to bring new models and all of those type of things. There are people who are concerned, very important. And there are people who think about like the possibilities, what's possible with artificial intelligence. And it's possible to play along different lines, right? There is no right or wrong in all of this. There's no right or wrong in all of this. I just want to make sure that I put it out here. So still trying to understand who is in the room. How familiar are we really? How many of you have used AI in the last 24 hours? We're going somewhere. We haven't started, but we're going somewhere. How many of you have used AI in the last 24 hours? Hence, I am. Yeah. Lovely. Thank you for the feedback. Now, how many feel confident explaining how artificial intelligence works? Okay. How many of us have used AI in the last 24 hours? Once again, yeah. How many of us are confident explaining how artificial intelligence works? Okay, I can still see some hands. I will come to that, which is part of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing with the AI conversations. The first slide and also this second slide. So I said, closing the gap between using and understanding artificial intelligence, right? And in the next one or two slides, I will share something that may be shocking, not shocking, but like exposition, more eye-opening. So this is how our flow is going to go, and this is what it's going to look like today. What is AI, types of AI, how AI works, use cases, concerns, where we are today. And then on your own, you can decide based on all of this, what's in it for me. So we started with, what was the first one? When you hear AI, what comes to mind? How many of us have used AI in the last 24 hours? Can we explain how artificial intelligence works? First, what AI is not. Is this shocking? Because like we heard about AI, and the first thing someone talked about Copilot and Gemini and all of that. How many of us are surprised to like even see that AI is not just okay? Because
They all are open the same open source.
okay, we're going that way. Great. Here it says AI is not human intelligence. AI is not just the chat tools. AI is not always objective and unbiased. Very important that we note that. AI is not conscious and feeling. Is there any of these things here that's not clear that I need to make a bit of explanation on? Yes.
AI is never objective.
Okay, great. It's not always objective and unbiased. Very, very important to point that out. Great. So, yes.
About the bias, like with the AI, if I use AI, like, you know, if I have an account and I keep using it, will it mimic my biases, or is it like it has its own biases that it's going to tell me? Like who
A
influences?
very, very important question that we're going to take at the end. Yes, so help me take note of that and bring it up again. Okay. Having gotten to this point, right? As a data scientist and someone who has done research around artificial intelligence, build models and all of those things, one of the things that's important to me when it comes to AI innovation and adoption is that people start from a place of understanding, right? From a place of understanding. And when we start from a place of understanding, it is possible to make more informed decisions, right? So as we spoke earlier, we have people who are super excited about adopting. Whatever you just release, give it to me, I'll connect it to my workflow, or I'll start using it to do whatever I need to do. And there are people who are like the other end of the spectrum, like, no, AI, the devil's thing and all of that. But I always say it's important that we have everyone at the table, have everyone understand, and then we can make progress from there. So what is artificial intelligence? It is not this, or it's not just this. Artificial intelligence, when you spoke, let me hear what you said again, and then we'll go to the next slide. When you said, you pointed out some things, you said.
So like if I have a chat GPT.
No. When I asked, when you hear AI, what comes to mind? There was something very important, yes.
I think AI is a tool that tries to mimic human intelligence.
Tries to mimic human intelligence, and then we could, okay. There we go. So artificial intelligence is some very important words here. It's a set of technologies that empower computers or systems to learn, reason, and perform a variety of advanced tasks that used to require like human intelligence. It's stuff that used to require us to have to do it by ourselves entirely. In some cases, this could take more time. In some cases, this could take more money. And what we try to do, or what they have tried to do, is how can we create a system that is possible to learn, reason, and perform a task that will normally involve humans or totally depend on humans? Yes, depend on humans. And some of this involves understanding language, analyzing data, and even providing helpful suggestions and outputs. Okay. Well, when we started, I asked the question, how many of us have used AI in the last 24 hours? And we had hands raised up, right? For the second step, which I didn't take, was I was going to ask, when you said you used AI, what did you mean?
Gemini,
You used Gemini.
trying
Okay.
to understand isn't AI,
Isn't just,
just AI.
yes.
For a while, I was, I think I have your question right. If I'm answering this incorrectly, I'm so sorry.
Yes.
When generative AI came out, all of the conversation started to, especially I think in academia, it started every time we saw the word AI, we were thinking of generative AI, at least I did. So I'm joking with my channel here. They're saying they didn't raise their hand to say they used artificial intelligence in the last 24 hours. I have Grammarly on all the time, and I think that's AI, but it's not necessarily generative AI. So I think when the conversation shifted to, look at, there's this thing called ChatGPT and there's this thing called Gemini, I've noticed that I do this, and I've seen some other people lump AI into being generative AI, but I see it like,
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. So if we could, let me just take a poll of the room. The word artificial intelligence, what year do you think it was first coined? Any hands? What year did you think the word artificial intelligence was first coined?
2020.
2020, great.
you have a 1950 for here. I said 60.
I would say around that, right? I see more. It's like, it's,
1990s,
Maybe 1990.
1990s. Are you just guessing, or like, oh, there was this thing that happened, we crossed from the 1999 into the new millennium, so this is like, are you guessing?
It's like the foundation of machine learning.
Okay,
That's where the term I remember.
I remember. Okay, great. And we have someone that said 1950s and 1960s. Why do you say that?
I think we've been speculating about what would be possible with computer technology and advanced learning as soon as those technologies came on the scene. I think there were already eyes to what could be possible or what might be next.
Okay, thank you. The first time the term artificial intelligence was used was in 1956.
yeah, that makes sense. When computer was created, it was in World War II, right? In England. So as soon as that was created and it was compiling and analyzing data, that term begins to sort of like take form, right? Not in the way that we know it today, right? But with Alan Cummings, like they were already talking about robotics and whether a computer could understand you, and back then it was just a set of chips, right?
Okay, thank you very much. 1956. I think that was at Dartmouth College. I've forgotten the particular state in the US where it came to be. And on one hand, it was based on the possibilities, as we've rightly said, right? Based on the possibilities of what could happen. And then we've had Cami is surprised. I can see her mouth open. Okay, and then we've had what I'll call cycles of excitement and all that along the line leading to where we are right now. And one of the things that has made the recent possibilities possible has been the possibility and advancement of computing, right? Computational power. Okay, so here we are. We said artificial intelligence is not just certain things, it's a set of technology. So I want to make sure that I'm playing fair. So when I said AI is not just ChatGPT and some of those things, it's not like you're 100% wrong for thinking that, oh, AI is ChatGPT. As she rightly said, when people think of artificial intelligence, they think about it from the realm of what's most recent, which is generative. And that was like 2022 when just everywhere we had like the newest, which was ChatGPT 3.5, right? And it was everywhere. So we're like, oh, this is AI. So when people think of AI, it's possible to think about it from this realm. But that's part of what we're trying to do with the AI conversations. Like I said, to bring clarity to certain things, right? Okay, yes. So when you hear ChatGPT or your Gemini or these generative forms that you know it as, right? ChatGPT is the interface, right? It's the interface. So Copilot is an interface. So that means artificial intelligence in itself is the brain behind the scene, and how we interact with that technology is what you have that you interact with. Is that clear? Okay. So how does artificial intelligence work? Based on these things that we've seen, based on the things that we've heard. Okay, no, types of AI, I think, yeah, but it was very, very important that I point this out. So it's connected to the explanation I just gave right now. So we have what's called artificial narrow intelligence, and there are two others, which you'll just see what the highlight looks like. But as I pointed out earlier, when people think of artificial intelligence, they think of the generative AI models, right? Sorry. Able to understand language, analyze data, provide helpful suggestions, and even outputs, right? So when people think of it, they think first from here, but there are other possibilities and other use cases of artificial intelligence. When you watch your interesting movies on Netflix, right? They probably already know and then recommend some of the next few things that you should watch. That's artificial intelligence in action. Not at the realm we know it, as I said, as generative AI models, right? But there's a recommendation system that's built into the technology. Do you understand? That's built into the technology. We have self-driving cars. We have voice assistants. Hi, Siri. Oh, literally, Siri went. So, funny, I have this thing where I say, I think Siri is always listening to me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Beatrice. Hi, Beatrice. You were probably hearing me. And when I called your name, you could, so that's just my thing. I think I'm like, how do you know I call Siri if you're not listening to every other thing that I'm saying? That's by the way. But first, artificial narrow intelligence, which is artificial intelligence that's specifically built for specific tasks, right? Built for specific tasks. And to be fair, this is where we presently are. This is where we are. This is where we've been for a couple of years, regardless of the excitement and everything. All has been here. What we've seen in some cases is updates. So we've had ChatGPT 3.5, we've had 4.0, and right now we're in 5.6, right? Okay, so the other two are what we call artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. There are people who are killing themselves on the mountain of artificial intelligence right now, but we haven't gotten there. So there is the hypothetical thought or belief that we're going to get to the point where we built systems that would totally not did not require us as humans, right? There is a school of thought, there's a body of knowledge that's building in that direction, which is very important, right? I think at some point last year, I took an 8 weeks course on AGI, the technical safety. So there are people who are already thinking in that direction, right? But for where we are right now, this is what is. Okay. So how does artificial intelligence work? The library analogy. So okay, this is a good place to start. How does artificial intelligence work? We've heard about learning, imitating data, human intelligence, and like that's what we've heard about so far. So I'll try my best not to sound too technical, but I think this is as explanatory as it can be. So there's a process. First is data collection, which I personally am I'm like this on it, and I'll explain why. So there's something I call the library analogy. And the library analogy is that, okay, and for the sake of our understanding, I'm going to be using generative AI as an example. That's not the be all, but I'm going to use that as an example and then connect it to other possibilities. So I will say, imagine all the libraries in the world, both physical, virtual libraries in the world, all the books, all the videos, everything, documents that have been produced, right? Imagine that it's all digitized, right? Imagine.
Oh, did I say that too loud?
You didn't say that too loud. And that's when I say that's why I'm like this on it. Imagine it's digitized. And then that data is used to train. Okay, so let me come back here. Data collection. AI begins with gathering large amounts of data for training, right? So all of these data is digitized. The collected data is then cleaned and organized to be used effectively, right? So, for example, data on faces, data on biomedical information, that's like maybe research and all of that, data on arts, data on financial conversations, and all of those things. The collected data is then cleaned and organized to be used effectively. Then a model is trained based on this. So this is sort of like an intro to machine learning that I'm doing right now. The data is trained, a model is trained based on all of these data that has been brought together, right? And based on the training, so there's some process we call evaluation. So we're looking for things like, what's the accuracy of this particular model? So for using that data, we have it in, we have the training data, and then we have the validation data. So we train, and then for whatever purpose that model was built for, if the model was built for, let's say, content generation, it will be evaluated based on how accurate. No, not that word. It will be measured based on if it's able to actually generate that data. If the model is built for example, if the model is built for disease prediction, it's measured and evaluated if it's actually able to do that, right? If the model is, just depending on what the model is built for, and then it's evaluated, then we see, okay, accuracy is maybe 76 point something. Why is it 76 point something? Is there something we could do to improve the accuracy and all that? Tuning comes in. We fine-tune the model. Sometimes adding new data, right? We fine-tune the model, and then it goes back. In some cases, it literally goes back where you have to collect data and all of those things. But then this is where deployment comes in, right? And yes.
Does this happen before the product is released, or is it both? Like it's happening also in real time all the time?
Okay, I'll come to that. Thank you very much. I love you guys. These are very, very important questions, right? Deployed. So deployed to be used, right? So this knowledge, this technology is now deployed to be used. How is it deployed to be used? When you try to use your generative model, right? This is what is happening behind the scenes. So the very important question that was just asked, all of this, in many cases, all of this happens before it's put out as a product for you to use, right? And then you as the user, you're doing whatever you want to do with it, you're generating whatever you want to generate. The person who is working in the hospital, and they have a system that's built on AI methods and knowledge. And the model was built, for example, to identify like X-rays and maybe parts of the human body and all of those things like that. They are using it for their own use case. Generally, this is how it first works. This is how it first works. So this is the over general, but this is something that I want you to understand. When I was talking about how AI works, generally how data is collected where I was in my hand like this, Jim Brown said something, said that's information that was stolen. And that's somewhere I am also a bit like this on AI. So first, some things to note is that this explanation I was given points to certain things. One, AI is trained on patterns. AI is trained on patterns. So when we collect data, right? When we collect data for any particular use, when we train a model based on that data, it's looking for patterns in that particular data, not from something else, not from what we think would be a perfect condition, right? Which connects to what's written here. It's data dependent, right? So it's the model literally learns from the pattern. So let me just use this room as an example. If we train, just imagine we train a model on, this is not large enough data, right? But if we train a model on AI conversations, which is, oh, I'm doing a report and I say, oh, I built this model to predict who is likely to come for the AI conversations. And I train it based on just this data that I have. We could look and say, oh, we have a working model. We could look and say, okay, how likely is it to predict whatever? But it's only working based on the patterns that it has learned from this particular data. So it is possible that that data could be biased. It's possible that the data could be incomplete, right? It's possible that the data can even learn what it's not supposed to learn. So one, trained on patterns. Two, it produces probabilities. And what that means is it produces probabilities that, for example, and also calculates likelihood, the likelihood of something happening. So when we try to maybe we've tried it a lot of time, when we use some of these Gen AI based systems, when you generate something, you're like, how can you be so dumb? Right? Based on the response that it gives you. And just based off that, which is like it's a totally different methodology and technology to itself. Just based off that, people are like, oh, I used ChatGPT 3.5 in the year 2023. It was so dumb. AI is dumb. Which is an incomplete, will I say, which is an incomplete statement. But understand, AI, as I said, is not alpha or omega. It's not human intelligence. It tries to mimic, right? The system is built to try to mimic. So it's trained based on patterns, produces probabilities, calculates what's based on likelihood, right? If a model is trained based on the faces of cats, right? And that model is supposed to be used for image recognition or facial recognition. Is this a cat or not? Some of the things that it's looking for is looking at their whiskers, right? What's the size of the ear? So all of this is happening like at a deeper level on what we call like neural networks, external like and more technical than what this presentation offers. So I think these are this second to last and then one more slide. There are different use cases of artificial intelligence. We started by establishing that AI is not just ChatGPT. We've corrected that. We've understood that artificial intelligence is, we have it in our everyday life, right? Beyond what we know. So how is AI presently being used or creating possibilities? In healthcare, AI is being used to support diagnosis, right? It's being used so imagine how life-saving it is when someone comes in to the hospital in a case that's very critical, and then we have to do step by step testing and all of those things like that, and reporting and how long some of that could take based on health data. And when I say like this is wide, for example, based on data around cancer, right? They've been able to build models and systems that could support diagnosis, saving lives, right? Resource allocation, drug discovery, disease prediction, right? We're able to predict if a person is likely to experience some kind of disease, and maybe at what point in their life, and all of this. All of this is possible because of data that has been pulled together, that has been a model has been trained on, has been fine-tuned, and all of those things, and that technology has been put into a system that's usable. In education, artificial intelligence is being used in things like performance analysis, where we have systems now where I think I was speaking at the Cherry Hill high school education, something where they had like the leaders from their education board and all of that, and they were talking about a new tool that they now use, which is called School AI, right? So with that, it's able to support student learning, and a teacher so their teachers do not just focus on the performance of a student based on what the final grades are. They're able to sometimes they do their assignment on those systems. They're able to see where a particular student is falling behind on a topic, right? How well does this student understand this particular topic, maybe based on questions that have been asked and all of those things. And then it helps them to, I said here, learning gap identification, right? They find out gaps in the student learning. But one thing that's very and which has been my thing most recent, like in recent years when it comes to education, I said, if our only metric for finding out if a student is learning or making progress is 100% based on their scores, then we need to totally revamp whatever process we are doing, right? Or if it's just based on what their eventual output is at the end of the day. What now happens in a situation like this where they can generate their own outputs through content generation? So like they could come up with their assignments and send it to you as a faculty member and all of that, right? It's been used in business, fraud detection, personalization, task automation, some of those things. It's being used in administrative work for research, for content generation, for 24/7 support, and all of that. This is not an exhaustive list. I just made sure to put this here. So in the next 2 minutes, I think I should be done. So what are some of the concerns when it comes to artificial intelligence? From conversations with people, research as applies to different organizations and different settings. One, there's the concern that AI reduces thinking ability. How many of us have had like any of these concerns on the screen here? AI reduces a person's ability to think. Why does AI hallucinate? People will become overly reliant. AI will be used. AI is bad for the environment. So these are some, there are many others, but just generally, these are some concerns that people have. And I think especially to our community and environment, to our community, which is like the academic community, we're concerned that AI reduces a person's thinking ability, right? We're concerned, people ask questions, if LLMs hallucinate, that's large language models, that's like what the ChatGPT and all of that is built on. If it hallucinates, why should I even use it at all, right? And those are very genuine concerns, really. As I started earlier, I'm not a doomer and I'm not a boomer for AI, right? But then an extra layer, how I tend to think of it, which will now lead to the opening for discussions. An extra layer of it is AI reduces thinking ability. People can become overly reliant on it. An extra layer of it, which is what, for example, AI education and AI literacy makes possible, is being able to understand, for example, responsible use of AI, being able to know and acknowledge that artificial intelligence is these different things and cannot be used in every situation and should not be used in every situation, because for everything that we're able to make a wonderful case for, there is also a case for concern. So as an individual who was trying to prepare for this, right? I sort of used ChatGPT in like its base form, which is, I've prepared my slides and all of those things. But in preparing for, I'm going to be speaking on blah, 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 to a mixed audience about this, right? These are my thoughts, right? These are my thoughts. And I had it critique some of the things that I was thinking and the way I wanted to present them, right? And this is like base level usage, right? How I want to present them. It helped me to do that. So one way one way people need to understand, one way people need to acknowledge, on one hand, sorry, people need to understand and acknowledge the possibilities and limitations of artificial intelligence. But if we are on two different extremes where there are people who are like, AI is here, it's here to stay, I don't care what any other person is saying, I'm all for it, give me Superman wings and I'm going to fly. Or if we're on the other end where AI is bad and all of those type of things, we deprive ourselves from the possibility of this knowledge and the possibility of this knowledge to even make like informed decisions. That's one. Why do LLMs hallucinate? One reason why LLMs hallucinate is because of what we call context windows. What context windows are sort of like how you have your iPhones update from time to time. So we had using Gen AI as an example, we had ChatGPT 3.5 and then we had 4.0 and then we had 5.0, yeah, I think 5.2 and then 5.6. What was happening at all this time is, as Jim Brown rightly said, more data was being stolen and updating the model, right? So it's sort of like just like an update of like data. So if you ask certain questions, one, it does not have the most recent information. Two, it does not have the information in the way you want it to be presented. And so we've had, as I said, it's external to this, we've had other techniques to make the LLMs hallucinate less. So one of them is what we call, one is prompt engineering. Another is what we call RAG, that's retrieval augmented generating systems, where there's an external connection to up-to-date data that feeds. So if I could have my own LLM and create a RAG system that feeds my use case, right, with the requisite data or with the requisite information. So I'm using it, let's say for my business, right? I'm able to connect my external RAG. We're able to build a RAG, connect it for our own business use case. So whatever information there is updated, hallucinates way less. But this is general thing. So people are like, oh my God, hallucination, I'm not, all of that. Another one is we're now beginning to hear about AI agents, agentic AI, and some of those things. All of that is, these are different ways organizations, businesses, institutions are using to tailor artificial intelligence to be perfect for them, right? And in many cases, just to be sincere, when we talk about LLMs hallucinating, or we talk about how data is.
Explain what you mean by it hallucinate. Like, is it meaning giving false information?
Yes, it's giving, yeah, it gives information that's not actually complete or correct, right? And at the initial level, that was what it was. Based on that feedback, what now happened was when we have, when they had newer models, they started, I don't know if you use like a free or a paid one, because like what you're exposed to in those, like they are two, like not entirely different, but like they're like two different things. For example, if you use a free one, when whatever data you put in and all of that, it could be used to train the model, right? If you're using like a paid one, enterprise and all of that, it's more secure. Do you understand? So those are certain things that it's very important for people to, I don't like when I'm talking about AI and then I start leaning more towards Gen AI. Yes.
Can I ask a question about hallucination? Sorry,
Yes.
I won't cut you off.
Yes, I'm literally all like done. So this is yes. In the next 5-10 minutes.
So so hallucinations happen because it's making its best guess about.
Yes, likelihoods, yeah. Yes.
Guesses have gotten better as they've tuned the models and gotten better data, right? But it's always going to be a guess. Yes.
Mm-hmm, yes.
So my concern is my concerns about AI are limitless essentially.
Yes.
Per hour.
Yeah.
But it's always, if it's always a guess, and then that means that there will always have to be some way of discerning what output I'm getting, whether it's useful or not. And the concern I often have is that, like, is the over reliance question. Is if we over rely on these systems to generate material and we lose the ability to generate material on our own,
Yeah.
and to have the ability to discern what is useful and what is not, then we will arrive at a point where we won't know.
Because everything that now is based on what has come from, which is a very like genuine concern. And
Especially
yes,
if we're using LLMs to generate data and then feeding that synthetic data into LLMs to train them. So numbers are training themselves. So I just wanted to sort of open the conversation about hallucination to say, you know, the hope has always been with AI that we will get closer. We'll keep getting closer to artificial general intelligence.
Yes.
Systems. That has been, you brought up that 1956. It's important to say that. The dream of artificial intelligence, general intelligence, has been with us essentially.
Yes. 56. Yeah.
And we haven't gotten there. And many would say we're never going to get there, but the problem of hallucination is not going to go away. It may be less, the risk may be lessened, but to my mind, it's always going to be there.
So be
haunting the result. Sorry.
okay. Yes, he wants to say something, and then maybe I'll add to it. Yes.
But I was going to say,
Happy birthday.
sort of like in the I don't know what he was talking about.
Go. No, go on. Yeah. I'll take this point on.
So yeah, one thing is that especially in education, we are on the risk of facing the computers talking to another computer.
Yes.
For example, Canvas released yesterday or this week, Canvas AI, right? So we're having students, generating homework and projects using large language models, and then they're going to send that to Canvas, which is awful. I mean, not Canvas itself, right? But AIs are awful at distinguishing whether it's a human or
Oh yes.
Right? So it's going to be an AI to another AI. It's what AI that, right? And so that brings me to the other one too, the second one too, and which also is connected with what Jim was saying. But I think the thing with AI is that it promotes inequality. And it was created to sort of like bypass these issues, but in reality, you have your basic, ChatGPT, which is, you don't even need to subscribe. Same thing with code. But you want to get the good one. You do this, and big custom things and stuff that you have to pay, right? And not also, you have access to better things, but you also have access to larger sets of data, right? And then it becomes proprietary, which also, builds some inequality. So that's a big thing for me that we're going to be seeing more and more. Like, the code that we're using is not the one that the Pentagon was using up until 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Decided that, the bombs. So.
Another concern. Kira.
Studies have shown that constant or consistently regularly use of AI decreases cognitive ability for thinking. And I agree that to counteract that, to have these trainings and conversations with students, faculty, and staff know when to use it. But I guess I'm wondering why that's being done after they're already using it rather than being proactive. Because I interact with students every day, and it's very clear that they're losing these abilities and things of that sort. I was a student here before as a staff member. I had a professor tell a student when they asked a question, ask ChatGPT, and the students are constantly thinking they were asking ChatGPT this question, getting them wrong, things like that. They're getting questions wrong for the content, has those gaps and things like that. So I don't think students, faculty, and staff know when to use it or know how to use it. And I worry that being more reactive rather than proactive is just causing all these concerns to just get worse and worse and worse, because there aren't a lot of opportunities for that. Rutgers use our subscription for ChatGPT, use Google Gemini, and promoting these things without saying here's the training and how to use them correctly. And as a student, I'm paying a lot of money to speak class. I'm being told to ask ChatGPT because I asked a question yesterday and it's wrong. So that's just my concern is if there can be more proactive trained rather than just be reactive. Now we're having all these problems where students are failing classes. What do we do now?
Very important. Thank you for that.
This is more of an academic